mobile does have better business opportunities than purely internet. Interestingly enough, I presented the same case study a couple of years back in a conference in Bangkok, and a woman in Malaysia said, hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to tweet Malaysian proverbs translated in English. So if you go to this Twitter account, Twitter/Malaysian without Malaysian proverbs, you can see this young lady tweeting one Malaysian proverb a day, translated from Malay, Tamil, various Chinese languages, dialects, etc. spoken in this region. Okay, so that's the power of social media business models. They can jump in some cases from one country to another, one culture to another, but not all business models translate. As Lars explained in the case of Japan, you need to translate the language, etc. to jump into other kinds of markets. The framework that I want to share with you for using mobile business is what I call the 8 C's of mobile media. As you can guess, they all start with the letter C. Connectivity means how many of your customers are online, in what kind of bandwidth connections, what kind of devices, what kind of content can you broadcast to them? Is it basic SMS or multimedia content through YouTube? How many communities of your customers can you identify? What demographic communities are there in your customer base? What culture do you have in the organization? What kind of capacity do you have? Are you doing app development in-house, or are you outsourcing this app development? How do you cooperate with the industry to set standards in mobile marketing, for instance, or mobile standards? How do you make people pay for content, and what kind of ROI models can you get? If you invest X amount into mobile commerce, what can you expect to get out in 1 quarter, 1 year, etc. So if you're doing mobile marketing or any kind of advocacy work, this is where you can use mobile. One is internally, you can use mobile to do different kinds of research. Many companies now have permission-based opt-in campaigns where if you answer a survey, fill out a survey, you get something back in return. So you can conduct dipstick polls very easily by using mobiles, by using apps, by using different kinds of tweet polls, etc. The holy grail these days is the convergence of what's called social, local, and mobile. When you have smartphones which have location-specific content as well as different kinds of social media features. This is the first year in which, in many markets, the number of mobile users in smartphones has exceeded feature phones or exceeded PC-based internet. So we see this tipping point cross over in many other markets around the world. A few years back, if you talk about LBS, location-based services, it was based on triangulation, GPS, etc. These days, it's based on QR codes, it's based on NFC, and we saw some examples from Japan and also here in Malaysia of augmented reality. So this is the new way in which you can overlay geography on top of virtual reality and virtual reality on top of geography. So we see some very interesting new startups coming into this space. There's a whole bunch of startups in what's called geosocial music. One of the hats I wear is I'm a world music editor for a music magazine, and I often track music startups for changing the world of music business. So this is an app which allows you to find out in your neighborhood how many people listen to the same kind of music that you do and are listening to it right now. Maybe you can meet them over a drink and talk about this music, etc. These are some very interesting emerging business models in the world of music. This one is called Mixer Radio. This is like a DJ, but it's a virtual jukebox. I can find a friend of mine who's a good DJ or who has got a very good collection of playlists, and together we can meet up. We can have a meet up and listen to the music that we want together through social media. So instead of coming to your house to listen to music, you play it through the mobile phone and listen to it wherever I am. And you connect us virtually to a whole bunch of other music fans, and we listen to this music through social media. So there's a very interesting convergence of mobile and social in this case. Another thing to look at is how not all mobile users are created the same. If you look at mobile social media users, some people only retweet. Some people will do mashups. Only a few people actually create content on their own. Good original content in the form of, say, good blogs, good YouTube video, etc. So there's a lot of amateur level UGC, user-generated content, and not very professional stuff. Your task as a marketer, as a researcher, is to find out who are the guys who can recruit indirectly to be my good champions, etc. If you are a research analyst, you'll be looking at these different kinds of converging theories of communication theories. The first, of course, is mass media theories. How do you do branding? How do you do mass broadcasts of tweets, etc.? That's the old school model of marketing. The new school one takes a look at what's the penetration of smartphones in my audience? What's the penetration of active versus passive users in the audience? How does my information change the attitudes of people? How do I use different kinds of interaction design? For those of you who are startups in this space, there's a huge need for people who can do mobile interaction design on multiple platforms. Quick example, the Weather Channel, the world's largest weather TV channel and radio channel, is now using social media and mobiles to transform the way it reports on weather. Very often you find the weather reports, even in the hot countries, are not very accurate, or it rains in one part of the city but not in the other. This affects how people travel, how they pick up the kids, how they ship courier packages, etc. So by using social media outsourcing on smartphones, the weather channel is building up very localized, geo-targeted weather maps of different kinds of cities. The challenge for you as a business person who wants to use mobile is one, mobile media fatigue. There's so much noise out there. Every day people hit you with statistics about why you must do this because 10 people more do this mobile social media than in last year. Or more people are migrating to NFC than in the last quarter, etc. So first thing is how to go from just being busy to actually engaging your customers. So don't just look at how many tweets and how many followers you have. Take a look at how much feedback you get, how much retweeting you get, etc. Based on this, I would classify your level of maturity into 5 levels. The first level is you're sort of neutral. Maybe mobile doesn't make so much of an impact, and maybe it does. Second is yes, I'm aware of mobile. I've done all the reading, the research. I've got the reports. I've got the case studies. I know people who can do mobile. Then you become mobile capable. You can do at least something by using mobile. Maybe SMS alerts. You have mobile tweeting. You're using some smartphone apps, etc. Then you become mobile centric. Mobile becomes a big part of what you do in your day-to-day life. Mobile is a companion media along with every other media that you have, traditional print, etc. The holy grail is when you actually transform your entire business by using mobile. So many companies, for instance, in logistics, media, etc., have completely transformed by using mobile. So you need to figure out where you are in this list of 5 levels of maturity and figure out how to go from one to the other. In other words, if you want to use mobile, you must understand how people are now using mobile to connect with brands. In other words, brands should join the what's called the conversation economy. In the 80s and 90s, people talked about information society. In the last 10 years, people talked about knowledge society. Now it is the conversation society. It's the conversation economy. It's all about conversation, smart conversations, business-centered conversations, etc. So coming towards the end, what I would recommend for you to do when you go back to your offices on Monday, I guess, is ask yourself, what's my competition doing? What's my counterpart in some other country doing in my same space? Who is going to integrate this media mix? Do you need a special mobile media marketing unit? Some companies have set up a separate unit for mobile research, mobile marketing, social media, etc. Should you in-source or outsource? Many companies in countries like India, Philippines, etc. are jumping into the space. You can outsource your platform, portability, all that stuff to different kinds of outsourcing companies. So this is where you will see the whole industry moving towards. You will see one bunch of signals, digital intelligence, coming from social media, the Twitter, Facebook, etc. Another bunch of intelligence comes from QR codes, NFC, Bluetooth, etc. Then you have the big giants like Google doing the search area and also location-based chips such as built-in GPS chips, etc. All this will affect how you do logistics, inventory management, how you do redemptions, coupon management. Some of this you heard in the previous session. So in sum, what we're seeing is mobile is transforming the 4 key elements of business. How customers find you, how they choose a product based on your portfolio, how they buy your product or service, and how they use it. Based on this, we are seeing a bunch of very interesting startups emerging in this space. So on the right, you can see the Solomon columns, social, location, and mobile, and how each of these different startups are operating in these 4 different kinds of spaces. So if you are a startup, this is how you can start positioning yourself. Maybe I'm good in the analytics phase. Maybe I'm good in the discovery phase. Maybe I'm good in the tracking of the feedback kind of a phase. So each of these areas open up different kinds of opportunities for you. There are some challenges, of course, which is the first one is big data. The amount of data coming now through smartphones and mobiles is unbelievable. Many people say that today content is not king, but data is king. And companies like Google love that. They specialize in data. So some people say context is king. Contextualized information or contextualized data is the king. All the way down to relationships and organizations. In your company, who needs this data most? Marketing, research, customer sales, etc. Another slice of the same emerging startup, if you're a VC, an investor, is the big growth is in the top layer. How do you visualize and make sense? Sense making is a term used in psychology, also used very heavily these days in the technology industry. How to make sense of all these very different kinds of signals that are emerging, and where is the business? Where is the business model which works the best? Context, or is it marketing, or is it aggregation? In conclusion, I would say we're still in very early years of this whole mobile business space. If you look at how many people are not yet using mobile internet, it's most of the world's population. It's evenly split now between developed and developing countries, but we have a huge amount of growth still ahead of us. So these are still extremely early years for us in the world of mobile business, even in places like Africa. One very astonishing development recently is the rise of countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Ethiopia as huge markets. The next big billion market in the world is Africa with more than 1 billion people. And now we're seeing not just Western companies coming into Africa, but Asian companies coming into Africa. Chinese, Indian, Malaysian, Singaporean companies are all over the African market in terms of operator opportunities, content, systems integration, etc. So don't look only at the West for leadership, look within Asia and look at other emerging economies also. Thank you.
When there's a business opportunities, then we really have to look at the kind of tools, and again there are lots of new, what shall I say, technologies coming on. And of all these technologies, in fact, if someone were to ask me today, even the word mobile opportunity, the word mobile is now becoming an enabler, because the opportunity is actually much bigger than that. In terms of 50 billion connected devices. So when some of the people ask me what kind of opportunities, I tell them, don't just look at mobile as being on your phone, but mobile is an enabler for your home, for your car. Connected devices is an app that will, the mobile will be the technology that really revolutionize anything we deal with on a daily basis. And that's where we should be looking at to look at new opportunities for business.
First thing, there are more than 5 billion people are already walking with handphone. My question is, what do you all want to do about it? One. Second, since there are already 5 billion people walking on it, how and where? You see, out of 5 billion more people, there are only 2 billion people are really connected, which means they have internet, mobile connection on their phone. And there is a statistic that within the next 4 to 5 years, the entire 7 billion people are going to be connected. How? First thing, if you were to look at the third world country, a person's income is about $2 per day. And how is he going to buy a $2,000 food? Right? Now, I have a phone here. At about 3 months ago, I wanted to go in to change a new phone. And I asked them how much they can give me. They say they can give me 380. If I go back now, I think they'll only offer me 300 or 350. Imagine this phone has got everything, whatever you want. It's truly connected, whatever the latest thing that you have. Now the second person who owns the phone will buy it. If they purchase from it for 350, they will buy it at 350 and sell it about 500. And the third person, when he sells the phone, he will sell it at the market about 200 to 150. And the third person who purchased the phone will buy it for about 200 to 250. When the fourth cycle, the fourth owner, the phone will be not in Malaysia, but it will go to the third world country. How much do you think this phone will be? It will be about 20 to 30 US dollars. Now, if it is 20 to 30 US dollars, now this is where the low-end phones are sold all over the world. Now, which means everybody will be connected to what you have. Imagine that what happens. Now, actually, UNESCO came with a statistic, there are more people are going to be educated in the lifetime of humankind than any time. That means the opportunity for learning, common, imagine that whatever you want to do, it can be all done. And the people who are not able to reachable, they can be reached. And whatever they want to do, they also can do. Now, whatever they've been thinking about learning, whether a commerce or products which they are not able to sell, they can able to reach. And whatever the opportunity is, whatever we have, if we want to reach that, we also can reach that. So the opportunity here is fantastic. Imagine, please imagine. Now, the other thing that all of you must please remember, that these people who are going to own the third world country people are going to leapfrog. They are not going to walk like how the government is making infrastructure. They are leapfrog. Which means, if it took us about 50 years, it's only going to take about 10 to 15 years to reach us. So if you are not going to move, if you are not going to take advantage and opportunity of what we are talking and sharing, then I guess they will be at the same field. I've opened it up on education, so open up, we can talk about it.
I would first segment into the big guys, the medium guys, and the entrepreneurs. So very often the big guys talk about only are the big guys. So the big operators will talk only to the very big mobile services, outsourcing companies like say Demand Mobiles, which is Infosys only the big operators will talk to the small operators who want to expand overseas, etc. Then you have the mid-tier companies. These are the big national players who, with some extensive outreach, can expand to other smaller markets. The big challenge or the biggest action is for the small entrepreneurs. The small startup who's got a nice dream or something, say in Bangalore, wants to go to Chile, wants to go to Malaysia. This is where networks like Mobile Money can go out. They have peer-to-peer connections between startups, and they can tell you, hey, our market needs a startup like this. Why don't you come into our market? So it's still very early stages of that space, of getting startups to jump to other countries. The big guys don't worry, they're already globalized, they're half educated anyway in the US, UK, etc.
In my view, I think we are, as you rightly point out, we are at a stage which is a bit frightening, alright, and not many people know where we are heading, and Madan points out the very dangers, and various surveys have shown that people who are as young as our children below the age of 12 are already being exposed to things that you would not even dream of them coming into your house, but they are coming to your house through various ways and all that. But I think, and one more important trend that we have to watch out for, and I remember reading in many places, is that things are never free, right? Nothing is ever free. So when you are getting a free application or a free service, like Facebook for example, which says, their tagline says, always free, right? You will always be free. Now you're going to ask yourself, is it really free, or how are you paying for it? And I think we are paying too high a price. And I already see another very dangerous trend. Or at one time, you compartmentalize your apps. You could be in Facebook, and that's it, you're in Facebook. You are in Yahoo, that's it, you're in Yahoo. But today, all the apps are trying to link up with one another, right? So they're making you share your password. You're on Facebook, they're asking you to connect via Facebook, or if you go somewhere else, they ask you to connect this way. And now suddenly all these companies, they know. You watch a YouTube video, you take my bet, you go and watch a YouTube video, then you come out and then you go to another site. And you'll find that the ads being thrown at you are the very videos that you just watched on another app far away. So they know everything you do, which is honestly very frightening. Right? It is very frightening, and I have no answer to that. But I think we've got to be aware that nothing is free, and if that is the case, then what kind of price are we paying? My prediction, there will be a backlash. I think ultimately, a lot of people who are not insane will finally realize this is too much, and there may be a backlash, in which case either the social networks and the services either pull back a bit, or people will leave them, because they now suddenly know too much about us, and it is very frightening. For example, many of you do, I think may not realize that when you are on Facebook and some of these apps come on and says, watch this, or this video of this girl who was raped in Papua New Guinea and all that. By you clicking there, it's an ad, and then you say like, and then suddenly 500 of your friends say, whatever, Johnny just saw this video of a girl raped in. And what does it tell me about Johnny? I would worry, right? He wants to watch a girl, you know what I mean? So then you begin to think, and then you worry. So the thing is, now they're beginning to know too much about us. And even as a tech guy, I worry, and I tell myself that ultimately, the good people have to rise up again and push back a little bit against these organizations that are saying free. Very dangerous. I rather pay, honestly. I rather pay, because then you're feeding them money, then they may not want to take too much of it. I think